over 2 months ago, Wizards of the Coast announced their formalized matchmaking system for Commander, the Bracket System. The system is straightforward. All Commander decks, be they Precons or CEDH decks, Jank or fully optimized or somewhere in between, all fall into one of 5 power level brackets depending on the game experience they are intended to create. The system was announced alongside a beta testing period where players were encouraged to give bracketed matchmaking a try and provide feedback based on their experiences. We've been in this beta testing period for a couple months now, and to be honest, I think the system is working precisely as intended. That is to say, nothing's really changed. An often missed component of Gavin Verhey's initial announcement of the system was that for most Commander players, nothing would change. It was literally the very first thing he said, even before going into detail about what brackets were. The goal of brackets was not to force Commander players to play games within their playgroup any differently than they already did if they didn't want to. The goal was simply to provide a tool, a framework really, for players who didn't already have an established relationship to get fun and balanced games of Commander with each other, such as at a local game store or a MagicCon. And to that end, I believe the system has worked great. I expect we'll be leaving the beta testing period before too long. And again, to be clear, I really like brackets. I think they do a great job of detailing the differences between different Commander decks. But while I have already talked about differentiating between decks on the lower end, as well as between decks on the higher end of the bracket scale, those videos are linked in this video's description by the way, I haven't yet discussed how to bridge the gap between low and high. In other words, many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, how does one turn a bracket 3 deck into a bracket 4 deck? In this video, I will be covering the distinction between a bracket 3 and bracket 4 Commander deck, including the kinds of changes that one would make to transform their upgraded bracket 3 deck into a fully optimized, lean machine of a bracket 4 deck. I'll discuss specific kinds of cards that work in bracket 3 but not in bracket 4, and of course, I'll cover the subject of Game Changer cards. And I'll be doing all of this using the same Commander as I used for the bracket 2 to 3 video, meaning that if you watch that video, you can see how to take one singular Commander from bracket 2 to bracket 3, and now from bracket 3 to bracket 4. So get your pencil and paper ready because the lesson is about to begin. Bracket 3 is the upgraded bracket, as opposed to bracket 4, the optimized bracket. Students of the English language might think optimized and upgraded are synonyms, and they wouldn't be wrong. But the distinction lies in how far you go with your upgrades. Are you trying for higher power gameplay, or are you trying for the highest powered gameplay? The most obvious difference between bracket 3 and bracket 4 decks are the number of Game Changer cards that you run. These are cards from the Game Changers list, considered by Wizards of the Coast to be among the most game-warping cards in EDH. Efficient tutors, busted mana, card generation, free spells, the most punishing stacks pieces, and power outlier commanders make up this list. In bracket 3, you can run up to 3 of these Game Changer cards, while in bracket 4, you can run as many as you'd like. Note the phrase up to with regard to bracket 3. It is perfectly possible to build a bracket 3 deck that doesn't run any Game Changer cards. I did so myself in my turning a bracket 2 deck into a bracket 3 video here. On the other hand, though technically there's no requirement to run any Game Changer cards in bracket 4, the nature of bracket 4 gameplay does essentially dictate that you run Game Changer cards in the optimized tier. It's just very hard to optimize your Commander deck if you're not running any of the 40 most busted cards in Commander. That does not mean, however, that you have to run every Game Changer card available to you in your Commander's color identity. Not every card fits what your deck is trying to do. A general rule of thumb I'd say for bracket 4 is that 5 or 6 Game Changer cards is the minimum. You almost certainly should run Ancient Tomb and Chrome Mox, for instance. And most decks will want the One Ring, Mana Vault, and whatever tutors are available in their colors. Again, speaking generally here. But the difference between bracket 3 and bracket 4 isn't just about the Game Changer cards in your deck. It's also about the cards you choose for the rest of your 99. Something like 70% of the non-land cards in your Bracket 3 deck will carry over into your optimized Bracket 4 deck. After all, you already should not have been running any jank or pet cards in Bracket 3. To quote Gavin's announcement article, Bracket 3 decks are full of carefully selected cards, with work having gone into figuring out the best card in each slot. So, for example, if you're choosing between Birds of Paradise or Elvish Mystic, you're not going to settle on running Elvish Mystic in Bracket 3 just because you happen to own a Sweet Secret Lair version. Bearing all this in mind, let's get back to Teysa Karlov and the Bracket 3 list we ended up with at the end of that video. If you don't remember what the Bracket 3 Teysa deck list looked like, or you haven't watched the previous video, the crux is this. Bracket 3 Teysa is a powerful, synergistic, and highly resilient Aristocrats deck with a low curve. There are no clunkers in this list. Everything is either cheap or has an immediate and significant impact on the board when it enters play. Every good Aristocrats card is included, from the best sack outlets like Phyrexian Altar, to the best sack payoffs like Pitiless Plunderer, Grave Pact, and a pile of Blood Artist variants. A few generically powerful cards are also included, such as Esper Sentinel and Teferi's Protection. Even if they don't precisely fit the game plan, they certainly don't detract. Now, in our previous video, I chose not to include any Game Changer cards in order to demonstrate that it's not the presence of a couple of Game Changers that makes or breaks a deck's inclusion in Bracket 3, but rather it's the deck list as a whole. For this video, though, I am going to include the maximum 3 Game Changer cards in Bracket 3, as I expect most players who want to optimize their Bracket 3 deck into Bracket 4 would have started from a Bracket 3 list that was already running a few Game Changers. And for what it's worth, I've made a couple very minor tweaks to the deck list in the process of making this video. Please forgive me. The 3 Game Changer cards I've elected to run in the starting Bracket 3 Teysa deck are Bolas's Citadel, Demonic Tutor, and Smothering Tithe. Bolas's Citadel is the most directly synergistic card on the Game Changers list for Teysa, as Teysa decks tend to gain plenty of life, which can then be spent to cast cards with the Citadel. The sack outlet mode on the Citadel is also very relevant in this deck. The other 2 Game Changers, Demonic Tutor and Smothering Tithe, are more about raising the generic power level of the Teysa deck, providing additional consistency and powerful ramp. Of course, if you've got a Bracket 3 Teysa deck of your own, you can run whichever 3 of the Game Changer cards that you wish, provided they're in Orzhov colors. Okay, it's time to optimize our Teysa deck. Let's start with the splashiest cards that we're adding. More Game Changer cards. Technically speaking, 22 of the 40 Game Changer cards can legally be run in a Teysa deck, but not every card on the Game Changer list fits with this deck, even at its most optimal. These highlighted cards are the ones I would consider for my optimized Teysa deck. The other cards are doing things a Teysa deck, even an optimized Teysa deck, is uninterested in. But I'm not even interested in running all 13 of the cards highlighted here. A generically powerful card is nice and all, but they have diminishing returns. You're still piloting an Aristocrats deck after all. You only have so much room for cards that don't actively contribute to an Aristocrats game plan. Of the cards worth considering for Teysa, I've elected to include Enlightened Tutor, Smothering Tithe, Bolas's Citadel, Demonic Tutor, Vampiric Tutor, Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, and of course the One Ring. That's a grand total of 8 Game Changer cards when all is said and done. Maybe you would choose to run a couple more, like Traneth Magistrate or Mana Vault, but personally I don't think either of those 2 cards would improve the deck more than a card that's also powerful but more directly meshes with the rest of what we'll have going on. Now, on to the other adds. Yeah, there are other cards we're adding beyond just Game Changers. Adding Game Changers is not the only thing that makes a Bracket 3 deck into a Bracket 4. It's about other cards as well. All told, there are 10 non-Game Changer cards we're adding to the deck. Mondrak, Glory Dominus, and Elspeth Storm Slayer join Anointed Procession as token doublers that make the deck even more explosive. Yawgmoth, Thran Physician is a powerful sacrifice outlet that draws cards and mows down your opponent's small creatures. It is an excellent card that would be a great option for a Bracket 3 deck, but becomes a requirement if you're playing Teysa Karlov at a Bracket 4 table. Bitter Blossom, Voice of Victory, and Orcish Bowmasters Daggers each provide additional tokens as sack fodder, though the latter two cards also provide an additional utility on top of that. Orcish Bowmasters is especially great in a Bracket 4 Teysa deck, not just because punishing opposing card draw is more valuable in Bracket 4 games, but because anytime you trigger Orcish Bowmasters, you can sack your existing Orc army token with a trigger on the stack for value before it replaces itself when you amass one. Path to Exile and Toxic Deluge are also cards that would be reasonable inclusions in Bracket 3, but are non-negotiable in the faster-paced and higher-powered Bracket 4 landscape. Lastly, Dark Ritual and Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. Dark Ritual is an excellent one-time acceleration in any black Bracket 4 deck, and should therefore be an auto-include if you're building an optimized black deck. Urborg, likewise, is a low downside card that can go a long way toward helping your mana base. A full 2/3 of the deck requires black mana to cast, so you'll want to access as much black mana as you can. You can run Urborg in Bracket 3 if you'd like, but it's an expensive card, and the fail case it's protecting against, not having black mana, is not as big of a concern at slower tables. Very few of the cards that we're cutting would be that out of place in a Bracket 4 deck, but we need to make room for these good cards that we're adding one way or another. By and large, the number one reason for the specific choices we're making here is the increased speed of gameplay in the optimized tier, though there may be other considerations as well. Hunted Witness, Infestation Sage, and Ophiomancer are direct swap-outs for the trio of Bitter Blossom, Voice of Victory, and Orcish Bowmasters. We're leaving in Doomed Traveler despite its similarity to Witness and Sage, but 3 copies of that kind of effect are just too many when we could instead include more powerful sack fodder that may even serve an additional function outside of feeding your aristocratic machine. Mausoleum Secrets, Plumb the Forbidden, Spawning Pit, and Rite of Oblivion are all outclassed by cards we're adding. Mausoleum Secrets is a weaker and less reliable tutor than Vampiric Tutor. Plumb the Forbidden is a sweet card draw spell, but looks ridiculous next to the One Ring. Spawning Pit was the weakest sacrifice outlet in the Bracket 3 deck, and is now hitting the bench in favor of Yawgmoth. Rite of Oblivion is a cute and synergistic card, but now that we're in the big leagues, we just need to be running Path to Exile. Basic Swamp swapping for Urborg is a natural switch, while Westvale Abbey gets kicked to the curb in favor of Ancient Tomb, the much stronger colorless land. Castle Ardenvale is too slow for Bracket 4 games, so it's getting turned into Chrome Mox, much more Bracket 4's speed. And then we're cutting Basic Plains as a nod to our curve generally getting lower in Bracket 4, and an acknowledgement that Ancient Tomb adds 2 mana for a single land drop. The remaining 4 cards we're cutting are simply overcosted and underpowered for Bracket 4. Solemn Simulacrum, Black Market, Sir Conrad the Grim, and Massacre Worm. These are all very sweet cards that fit the Bracket 3 game plan well, but they're just out of place now that games have gotten faster and more powerful. You can consider these as getting cut for cards that are better in more explosive games. Enlightened Tutor, Dark Ritual, Toxic Deluge, and the 2 additional token doublers. The result of all of these changes is an extremely tight, well-oiled machine of a Bracket 4 Teysa Karlov Aristocrats deck. All the same fun stuff that Teysa is capable of is still possible here. In fact, you're even better at doing it quickly and consistently in Bracket 4. An increase in tutors and fast mana means you'll find all your best cards every game, and you'll cast them quicker than you would in Bracket 3. And in the meantime, all your opponents will also be executing their game plans faster and more consistently, and that's something you're prepared for as well, thanks to your improved interaction suite. And keep in mind, even though this deck I've built is an optimized Teysa Karlov deck, it's not the optimized Teysa Karlov deck. There is not a singular right answer for building a Bracket 4 deck, because there's no specific meta to prepare for. If you have a metagame you're building for, then yeah, there is technically a correct answer out there for how to construct a perfect deck, but that's what distinguishes a Bracket 4 from a Bracket 5, and for more info on that, you got it. You can check out our video right here. Or you can just check out our episode of Shuffle Up and Play with Ali Beardsley, Spice 8-Rack, and Jesse Robkin, and that is linked in this video's description. And if you're looking to get free, totally free games of Webcam Commander, then just go over to the Tolarian Community College Discord server. I'll link that in this video description as well. It's linked in every video description, and yeah, it's free. So if you want to get games of Webcam Commander on the TCC Discord, you should go check it out right now, today, link below.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
I've got a very special deck. This was a plot, a scheme rather.
Our lead director came up to me before shooting and just said, Prof, just go with it when you see it. Don't start frowning, just go with it, please. They've been trying to troll me with this for a month now. They've been going on and on about it, and I don't know what this deck is.
Llanowar Elves.
Oh.
The classic.
6th edition. Your turn.
Oh, sixth
edition.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna flash in Gandalf. This is a card art.
That card. That was the one in the secret lair where it was like 42 cents worth of cards.
So I got loot.
Oh, you got loot too.
Yeah.
Hey.
No, loot times 2 is 6.
I think I'm starting to hate what you hate.
Yeah.
All of this looks crazy.
You must have just subscribed to Tolarian Community College. I am literally going to shuffle up and
Yeah, let's hear it. Ooh.
I'm at 5 time counters, just
Be
so
careful.
you know.
Prof doesn't misplay.
That's right.
Prof does bad plays.
That's like the underside of a female pig.
I'm not even mad. This episode is probably never going to air. This,
Like-
I don't even care. How much
So-
Magic 30 did you buy?
I don't want to talk about it.
Do I look like I care? I'll just pick
Garbage.
Shut up! Let me ask you this, idiot!
How much better does Soul Ring make, Batman?
This is the kind of...
Gix.
You can do it.
Land the shot.
Smash it. Ooh. Oh my god.
It's the most
Yikes.
dumb card I've ever seen in my life. I have no idea how it works.